Hi, Hannah family. Welcome back. I've pulled together 3 very interesting stories for you this week, so sit back and enjoy the show. Story 1. My boyfriend's house. I think this all started when my boyfriend rearranged his room. His house is new, and they're the first people who lived there. My boyfriend has several model cars in his room. One I particularly pointed out to him because I'd noticed that several times the door on the car would be open or shut when no one had touched it. We could be the only ones in the house, and we'd go upstairs, and the door would be open. No one seemed to be bothered by this, until we noticed how his dog started to bark constantly at what seemed like nothing. He'd bark at something on the stairs, something in my boyfriend's room. And because I'm into the paranormal, I knew that animals are extremely sensitive. The dog would sometimes run about frantically barking, just going mad. Eventually my boyfriend said to me that he had seen and heard something in his room the previous night. He saw a black shadow move across his room, and very heavy breathing, which he said sounded like an old lady, standing over him while he slept. The door on the model car was moving much more frequently while this was happening. He came into his room one time to find that many of his ornaments were balancing on his radiator, leaning onto the wall. He told his mom and his sister about what he saw, and they both seemed to agree that they too had noticed strange things going on. His mom said that she had watched a shadow figure move about outside in the back garden, bending over as though they were tending the flowers. His sister said that she had 2 things happen to her. Once, she was in the bath when she felt something tap her on the shoulder. She turned around, and nothing was there. Another time, she said that she had been woken up by someone coming into her room, walking about and breathing heavily. She asked my boyfriend if he had gone into her room, but of course he hadn't. And he's not known to sleepwalk either. Things were like this for a while, and then everything seemed to stop, apart from the car door on the little model car opening and shutting all by itself. One time, I was over, my boyfriend and I were discussing the odd occurrences. His sister took me home, bringing my boyfriend with us and leaving their mom home alone. However, when they got back, she was in a really bad state. Something had been playing my boyfriend's drums. She heard a massive crash, and the dog had ran downstairs with his tail between his legs. When they went up to look, everything in my boyfriend's room had been pulled off the shelves, out of the cupboards. The TV, the stereo, and the computer had all been disconnected. The cables all over the place. The bedclothes on the floor. My school picture was lying on the floor, picture out of the frame. Soon after this incident, his mother got someone from a spiritual church to come in and bless the house, and things calmed down. She seemed to think that the spirit was my boyfriend's grandma, who had been restless because my boyfriend was having such a hard time with school and life, which was true. He said that at one time he actually heard his grandma's voice, and then everything was gone. Everything stopped happening, and they've not had another occurrence in quite a long time. Story 2. A couple of ghosts. My sister saw 2 ghosts when we was younger. Of course, no one in my family believed her, because my family is very much the seeing is believing type. Well, the years went by, and she still swears up and down that she saw a ghost. And all these years since she saw the ghost, I'd been having recurring dreams of a little boy and an old man in our house. I never thought that much about them, because I had weird dreams all the time. A few months ago, my dreams started to get more frequent. My sister and I were sitting, talking about weird dreams, and I told her about my dream, about the man and the little boy. She asked me to describe them, where they were standing, what they were doing. I told her the little boy looked like he was about 9 years old. He was wearing overalls, a red shirt, and a ball cap. He had bright red hair and was holding a fishing pole. He was standing in front of our bathroom. The old man had white hair. He was wearing dirty old blue jeans. I couldn't see his face that well. He was sitting on our couch. His neck looked mutilated, like it had a cut. After I told her about my dream, she just kind of sat there and looked at me weird, and she said, "Why didn't you tell anyone you saw them too?" I was like, "What?" I didn't know what she was talking about. And then she told me that I had just described the ghost that she had saw years earlier. Needless to say, I believe her now. Story 3. The Abandoned House. My town's old, and because of my town's age, there's many old houses in it, and the ghost stories are abundant. There was this one old abandoned house in particular that was reported to be haunted by the spirit of none other than George Washington himself. When walking past the old place, I would always keep a wary eye out for the old general, but I never did cross his path. Of course, I never did have the nerve to venture inside the place, so that I might come face to face with him. And then one night, I was at a friend's home, and he started showing me some things that he had found at that old farmhouse. The house had been abandoned for as long as I could remember. It had a lot of overgrown shrubbery that hid most of the front of the house. My friend Neil, along with a friend of his, Rob, had ventured into the place one night to check it out. In there they had found all kinds of interesting things. Old seltzer bottles dating from the 1920s. Old documents from about the same time. The pair had gone up to the second floor to search for more artifacts. They stopped at the second floor bathroom and looked inside. Hanging from the ceiling was one of those single light bulbs with a pull chain. Rob asked Neil, "What would you do if I pulled that chain and the light came on?" And Neil said, "I'd race you down those stairs and out the door." Rob laughed and pulled the chain. Well, they both swore later that the light came on, and true to his word, Neil beat Rob out of there. As he's telling me this, I'm becoming more intrigued. I asked him to go there with me that night, and of course, he flatly refused. He would never, under any circumstances, go back there. Never, ever again. I let the matter drop, but I was always intrigued by that place. Finally, one night, I got my chance. I was driving around with a friend of mine and two girls. We were talking about that old house, and I said I was going to go there. My friend was eager, and the girls, however, well, they were not so enthusiastic. I pulled my car into the driveway that led behind the house. I parked all the way in the back, so if the police decided to come and do some rounds, they wouldn't see my car. It was one of those dark, drizzly nights. Not a great night to be investigating a haunted house. Or maybe it was the perfect night. The girls were really apprehensive now, and started complaining about this to my friend. I was trying to pry open the plywood that covered the back door. A putrid scent filled the area. We stopped and sniffed. It smelled like a decomposing body. When the girls smelled that, they said they really wanted to leave. Now. My friend and I were a bit unnerved by this as well, so we left. I dropped the girls off, and my friend off, at their respective homes, and I went back to town to hang out for a while. My friend Neil pulled up, and I told him about going over to the house. He laughed and told me I was crazy. I said, "Come on, go back there with me." Again he laughed and said no way. But I bugged him some more, and finally he agreed, but with the warning that he would leave me right there where I stood if so much as a breeze blew through the place. I agreed. We stopped at his place to get a couple flashlights, and off we went. We got in through the boarded-up window at the front of the house this time. We walked all over the house. I picked up an old notebook, some old letters, some old newspapers. Nothing weird happened, and after a while I left satisfied. We got back uptown to hang out, and Neil left to go home. I stayed there and started sorting through my souvenirs. As I looked over the stuff, I became fascinated. There was letters from the Second World War era. It seemed that the family had lived there at the time. They had a son that had gone off to war, and he had been taken prisoner by the Germans. There was a lot of correspondence about that. I never did find out what became of that man. As I'm sitting there in my car, looking through all this stuff, another friend pulled up, and I showed him what I'd found. He was interested in the old stamps that was on some of the old letters. He asked if I'd go back there with him to look for more letters. I said sure. There was nothing there to be afraid of, so I didn't hesitate. We stopped at his father's house and grabbed a few flashlights. He drove this time and parked across the street from the house at a gas station. We went in and we looked around for a while, but it was apparent that there was really nothing left. We were standing in the kitchen when I said to my friend, "Why don't we just get out of here?" As I said that, the flashlight went out. Not thinking anything of it, I turned it on and turned it off again. Nothing happened. I pulled up my secret lighter to try to light it to lead the way out of the house, 'cause it's pitch black in the house, and the house is a labyrinth of hallways As I tried to light it, a small breeze came along and blew it out. I tried to cover the lighter with my hand, but no matter what, a breeze would blow it out. I was now becoming a little unnerved by this, and I said to my friend, "Let's just get out of here." We felt along the walls, trying to find our way out. It seemed like eternity, but we finally made our way to the front window where we came in. We crossed over to Tom's car. As soon as I put my hand on the door handle, the flashlight came back on. Needless to say, I have never went back there. And, since then, the house has been torn down, leaving nothing but 2 old stone columns that used to mark the entrance to the front walk. I do often wonder what happened to that young man who was a POW in World War II. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it.